Hey out there, legal warriors. Have you ever wondered about police reports? How do you get them? How are they used? How important are they? And what are some tips and tricks to be aware of if you're concerned about a police report? Well, if you're interested in this area of the law, if you think it applies to you, stay tuned. This is the video for you. My name is Attorney Lance Fryrear, and I'm a defense attorney in Linwood, Washington. My law firm's been defending people charged with crimes for more than 20 years, and I'm putting out these videos to help educate the public. So if you find it useful, please like and please subscribe. More people will get the help they need. Now I'm just going to jump right into it. Why make a video about police reports? Well, there's a whole lot of misconceptions out there about police reports. So, let's start with the basics. What is a police report? Well, it's a recording of events made by a police officer in certain types of cases. Just because a police officer comes out and talks to you doesn't mean there's actually going to be a police report. Sometimes the officers just call a contact informational, and all that's going to exist out there is what's really a CAD record, a computer-aided dispatch record, about sort of what the caller said when they called in saying they wanted to see an officer. And so just because an officer talks to someone doesn't mean there's an actual police report. So that's one thing to take into account. So what type of police contacts have police reports? Well, a common one might be, hey, there's a theft of property, so they need to make a report in case they ever catch the person or for insurance. Well, one could be a traffic accident that's a little more severe, right? There might be accident reports for every traffic accident, but sometimes there'll be a police report also trying to explain the details of what happened. Of course, criminal matters will have police reports when an officer's investigating a crime, things like that. And, there could be some other emergency situations where an officer writes a report. So each department has a different way of writing police reports. But what if you want to get a police report, right? How do you get a police report? Well, the most common way to get a police report is something called a public disclosure request. Each police department has their own way of doing things, but these are public records. And under Washington state law, there are some exceptions. You have a right to request police reports from the agency that generated them. Now, to do that request, you're going to need to know some information. What is the name of the subject you want the reports on? What is the time frame? And you've got to know where to ask, right? If you ask the Seattle Police Department for a police report, but the problem happened in Linwood, well, Seattle's going to say they don't have any records, right? So there's not one statewide place you can say, give me reports about Mr. X or Mrs. X everywhere. So you have to know a little bit to get one. But when you do a public disclosure request, the law enforcement agency, in this case, since we're talking about police reports, is supposed to tell you in 5 days about how long it's going to take. You're not going to get it in 5 days, but they're going to tell you how long it's going to take. And once your records are ready, if they exist, then you're going to probably have to pay some money to get them for their expense in producing the records. How long might it take? Well, some places it takes a couple days, and some places it may take a couple months. It depends on how many people they have working in that area, how many requests, etc. So that's one way you can get a police report. Another way, if you have a criminal matter, to get a police report is your attorney is going to get discovery, right? And discovery means the evidence that the prosecutor is using to try to prove the criminal case. The attorney can get that report. Now, there's an exception, though. That attorney under the court rules isn't allowed to just give you the report. You can see it, but they're not allowed to give it to you, okay? And there's a lot of reasons for that, why the court rule exists like that, abuse of witnesses, stuff like that. So realize that sometimes you may want to do a public disclosure request, even if you are charged with a crime. That way you can get your own copy of the report. There are some ways that an attorney can do redactions, get approval of a prosecutor to get you the report, but in our opinion, that's usually more trouble than it's worth. It'd just be easy enough to get a new public disclosure request. So once you get the report, how do you read it? Right? What do you see? Right? Well, if it's a criminal matter, you might see you're going to see somewhere in the report some names, right? It's going to say suspect, and that's probably the supposed defendant, the person they're investigating for the crime. You might see victim, and that might be whoever claims they're the victim of the crime. You're going to see a location, where it supposedly occurred, a date and a time that this report is about. It will say might reported on date and time, occurred on date and time, right? And there might be also witness information. There's a witness, there's a witness, there's a witness, and their contact information. So that's usually going to be somewhere in the first page or two. Also in the upper right hand side, you're typically going to see a police report number. And a little tip is that in 2022, when I'm filming this, almost all police reports will start 22-something or 2022-something. In Washington State, most departments would start the year with, 22-1, and then next report is 22-2, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So as you page through the report, if you've done a public disclosure request, you may see some blacked out parts, right? They're going to black out victim information, usually. They're going to black out any information about children. They're going to black out photos of any alleged victim. They're going to remove dates of birth and social security numbers. So sometimes you're going to get a really checkered thing. It looks like you're working for the NSA or something. There's all these blacked out parts, and sometimes there won't be. But you can bet that you'll be getting any type of printed document that was created. What may you not get, right? Well, nowadays there's a lot of body-worn police cameras, and many police departments aren't providing those or not doing so quickly because they have to go and redact so much information. It takes hours for them to do this. I've had a police officer, a friend of mine, contacted me to tell me about how difficult it is for the redactions that have to be done for a public disclosure request that aren't done for discovery. So you're probably not going to get a video, at least not right away. And unless you're very specific, you won't get recordings, things like that. So once you look through the report, it's basically going to be the officer just saying what they saw, right? There may be some conclusions about what they overall legally thought happened, but they're just going to be saying what they saw and what other people told them. As far as the format goes, you'll be surprised. You're going to see, even if you might get 35-page report and maybe only 5 pages are relevant, because due to coding and computer systems, they're going to repeat the same stuff over and over again. In the report, you might get 4 copies of the same officer's report. So what do you want to look for, right? Well, what you want to look for is maybe what's missing, right? Did you have a witness or something that they should have talked to that they didn't, right? Did they get what you said correct? Did you write a statement that's not there, right? You want to look for those things. What shouldn't you care about too much? Well, in my opinion, we get lots of calls from people. It's like, well, hey, the officer got this date wrong, or the officer got this time wrong, or the officer misspelled my name, or the officer got the license plate wrong. Well, all that's okay, but most of it's going to be fixable later by a prosecutor or stuff like that. So, don't worry about those fine details. Pay attention to them, but what you want to really look at is the big picture. Are there witnesses that are missing or stuff like that? So what do? Right? You have your police report, let's say it's a criminal matter, and there's some missing information that you think is important. Well, the first thing you do if you have an attorney is you bring it up to your attorney and let them figure out how to do that. If you don't have an attorney, you could consider reaching out to the officer and asking them, hey, my witness statement is missing, where is it? Or, hey, you didn't talk to this person. Now that's dangerous because I don't know, if you're an alleged victim or an alleged suspect would be, watching this video, but it's something you want to think about. I have seen some police reports updated in a way that is helpful, okay? As far as other tips and tricks regarding police reports, I think it's important to know that you should maintain possession of the report. You shouldn't go spreading it around to other people. Whoever gets the public disclosure request is supposed to use it for their own purposes, not for commercial purposes, things like that. And also, don't get too worked up about what's in the report if it's a criminal matter, okay? What I always tell our clients is that the police report is their version of the events with their view of things, with their slanted view. We will lose our minds if we worry too much about what's in the report, right? That's their version, not our version, because if my firm is dealing with it, we're probably charged with a crime. And let me tell you, I even just got off the phone with one of my associate attorneys, and the way we see the report is totally different than the way the prosecutor sees the report. So what are we going to do? We're going to ignore the report, and we're going to put forward our true story about what happened and try to get the prosecutor to do the right thing. So don't sweat the details, but pay attention if big things are missing, because your attorney may be able to help you. So summarize: to get a report, do a public disclosure request, or you can get it through the discovery process through your attorney. Some complications there. Look for the things that are missing. Don't worry about the small details. And overall, if the report seems unfair, we're just going to ignore it anyway, right? So I hope you found this useful. If so, please like and please subscribe. More people get the help they need. And more importantly, if you have a legal problem, if you need help in a criminal matter, feel free to reach out to my firm. We've been doing this for more than 20 years. We'll listen to what happened, we'll identify a way forward, and we will be there for you. Thank you.